Now, this is just my opinion, but I really don't think a lot of people are understanding how bullish this altcoin chart looks. This is altcoins, total crypto market cap for altcoins. So excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, basically, this is what the chart looks like. We're going to revisit. I'm going to explain to you what is going on here, why altcoin season is so primed and so on time. And we're also going to talk about Bitcoin dominance, just absolutely just making a powerful move to the upside, and short-term Bitcoin price action, because this is a really nice short-term roadmap for altcoins and for what's going on with crypto right now on the short term. So hit the subscribe, hit the like on the way in. Let's jump into it. Before I do, I need to do an update, just because I know we're zoomed out, and I'm gonna use a lot of time frame data. You know, this time last cycle, where were we? Things like that. We're going to use a lot of technical analysis data, but I want you to know what's driving a lot of this, besides just that in the charts, is what's actually happening. Bitcoin whales have never been buying Bitcoin so aggressively. Do you see this? 1 year change in total whale holdings. Look at this purple graph, just going crazy parabolic. Bitcoin whales are accumulating. BlackRock, this was, I think, from yesterday, or this is today. BlackRock bought 4,371 Bitcoin and now owns more than 400,000 Bitcoin. Look at the accumulation of this. Total IBIT inflows. So sentiment, basically, it's really to round this up and to explain very simply why this is such a big deal. Bitcoin's whale wallets, which we can define loosely as 100 or more Bitcoin, have grown by 297 wallets in just the past 2 weeks. During the same time frame, and here is the most important thing. During the same time frame, the amount of wallets with under 100 Bitcoin has shrunk by over 20,000 wallets. You might be like, man, that's not looking too good. But here's what's happening. As the largest key stakeholders in crypto continue to scoop up more coins from dumping retail traders, this historically leads to bullish outcomes. It's the same story. Smart money accumulating Bitcoin. Smart money accumulating Bitcoin, anticipating what's next. And we can look at the zoomed out, and we can even see maybe there's downside. But even if there's downside, what's next on the long term, everybody? And that's the question I continue to ask myself. So before we start dissecting Bitcoin price in the short term, talk about price action, all that good stuff, I did want to go over something. I actually saw a post from a big Bitcoin influencer on X, basically talking about altcoins, and altcoins are just terrible. And the whole altcoin narrative is coming to an end, and people are finally starting to get it. And I just want to say I disagree with that. And yes, Bitcoin dominance on this chart, and this is a monthly chart, by the way, looking really strong. But what I really want to point your attention to, first from a technical analysis perspective, is the Bitcoin dominance chart. Bitcoin dominance over the long term has not been winning. It's been seeing lower highs. That's because altcoin markets, whether you like them or not, altcoin markets are growing. And the sector, the space is growing, and it's going to continue to grow. And not only that, we have institutional adoption in that regard just starting right now at the starting line. So I know Bitcoin's getting it, altcoin's getting it too, for good reason. Bitcoin is not the only blockchain tech. It's not the only relevant blockchain tech. So here's where we are in terms of this chart. And this move, this power move of Bitcoin, is exactly what we want to see at this part of the cycle. It's exactly what we saw at this part of the cycle last time. So if you look at this from 2 cycles ago, when Bitcoin kind of fell off the cliff, you can see swing high to swing low. That lower high green area, the Bitcoin the Fibonacci 786 to 618. You can see Bitcoin made its way to that area. And I know I've talked about this a lot, but it's important because Bitcoin right now basically touching that area once again on this chart. So made its way to the chart. Here's last cycle's altcoin season. And then if we look at the Fibonacci from that swing high to swing low, and we look at Bitcoin dominance right now, Bitcoin dominance right now revisiting that exact area. So for me, and this has been the case, that entire range is in play, and we're looking at around 60% to around 65% dominance for Bitcoin before consolidation. And that's what I've been looking for, right? So you can see right now, Bitcoin is just approaching that lower high Fibonacci. It's exactly what it did last cycle. And this is what plays into this total crypto market cap chart, why it's so bullish. Look at when altcoins exploded last cycle. Look at where we are this cycle. And these yellow lines basically give you a sense of Bitcoin halving. 182 days now. post Bitcoin halving, look at the consolidation on this chart. And not only that, focus on these moving averages and just the consolidation of the moving averages right now and where this chart is. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because, yes, we can compare 182 days or so past the last Bitcoin halving, and this is when altcoins really started making a move and escaping the 20-week moving average. And this is the altcoin market cap, putting aside Bitcoin and Ethereum. So there's such a similarity in that regard, right? But what might make it even more bullish this cycle is the very fact that you can see at that moment when altcoins did explode to the upside, there was kind of this separation already from the 20 and the 50. Right now, these two are just squeezing together. So in terms of the moving average upside, we're like kind of back here, right? So all of that taking into consideration. Then we look at the momentum oscillators for altcoins and just look at it. Look at the MACD, just getting this MACD cross on the weekly above the signal line. So that blue above the red line. The histogram just turned green. We have macro consolidation, but this is something that happens on these charts. Macro consolidation. Just because we're not mooning right away after having a MACD crossing above the signal line doesn't mean it's failing. So we see a massive consolidation in these markets. And by the way, in terms of where the RSI is, check out where the RSI is, this slower moving momentum oscillator, just breaking above this moving average line. And then we look at last cycle. Look at it. Look at this. At that moment last cycle, it was all the way up here. Right now, we have very nice bullish consolidation on the RSI, and we're way lower, meaning more upside for the altcoin markets. And so you put all these things together, and I think the charts are coming together very nicely for altcoins. I don't think altcoins are failing just because they've been suffering against Bitcoin dominance on the Bitcoin dominance chart. This is what happens. And I'm sure it was the same old story back here when Bitcoin dominance was going all the way back up towards 70+%. People, I'm sure back here were like, that's it. Altcoins, people are getting it. Altcoins are failing. It's done. And then it was boom. It was a massive reset for Bitcoin dominance. And I think that's what's going to happen again. And I can be wrong. We start seeing Bitcoin dominance fly through that entire Fibonacci. I'm going to have to reevaluate the data on this chart and reevaluate markets. And I will, but I think that's where we are this cycle. So altcoin season, very much getting ready to just, I think, explode. And I just want to mention, I don't know if you don't have to like Cardano or not, but I don't know if you saw this news the other day. Cardano, 11th largest blockchain by market cap, is integrating the Bitcoin OS Grail bridge to unleash decentralized programmability and scalability on Bitcoin. Here's what altcoins are doing for Bitcoin, allowing it to become more scalable and programmable, because that's the problem with Bitcoin, right? Is it doesn't have that dynamic. And, altcoins like Cardano are innovating in the crypto space to bring things like this. So let's talk about Bitcoin on the zoomed in, just to give you a snapshot of what we're looking at on the zoomed out. Everybody, as you know, is just waiting for this massive inverse head and shoulders breakout. A lot of people just kind of tracking this cup and handle pattern. The thing that I like most about Bitcoin right now on this chart is, even if we don't get the breakout right now, if it doesn't happen, and again, elections are so close. They're around a week away. We can just call it a week right now. And I think the next week and a half can be extremely volatile for crypto. So this plays into downside on the short term, but this is what I like about the chart. Even if there's downside, maybe we visit the 50-week moving average down here in the 50s, $10,000 fall or so for Bitcoin. It's looking terrible because, there's a lot of volatility right now in the markets. Even if that happens, this chart looks so bullish. And the macro trajectory of crypto looks so bullish. Don't forget the data that we just looked at. And this is only one piece of data. But let's talk about Bitcoin on the daily chart, because it's very nicely in play, the breakout. But we're coming to a very critical juncture here on these charts. And a very simple way to frame this is, we've made our way from the lower trend line through the moving averages. We saw some support at the moving averages. We made our next leg up, and now at the upper end of this region, similar to previous upper ends of the region, we're testing the 20-day moving average, Right now, testing the 20-day moving average. So that's always the story. We're getting the swing high and we're revisiting these moving averages at this upper trend line area. We're there right now. And you can see Bitcoin saw support, and this could fail very fast. I mean, and you see how it's happened previous times. Fail right through the moving averages, fail right through the moving averages, fail right through the moving averages. But one thing I keep continuing to come back to is when you go to a weekly chart, what just looks so good to me, even if we do fall right now, we're not at this part of the pattern right here. We're not like at this swing high right here. And you can see very clearly on the oscillators, we're not falling on the RSI. We've been consolidating sideways now for months. We're not just falling on the MACD. We're actually getting a MACD bullish move above zero on the histogram right here. The MACD crossing the red signal line. We have this upward momentum on the quicker moving momentum oscillator. These things are happening on the macro, on the weekly at this moment, this time. So if there's anything that says Bitcoin might break out, it would be all of this data coming together. The one thing though is this week, I don't know if this is the week because it's the week before elections. I think there's a lot of jitters out there in the markets. And so maybe we do fall. And short-term support continues to be these moving averages for me. The 20-day around 65.5, the 50-day, which is pretty confluent with the 200, around 62.9, so 63. So 63 to $65,000 or so. That's the short-term support that I'll be watching for Bitcoin. Now, if Bitcoin does fall through those areas, I'll take the swing high ultimately to the swing low to the swing high, the new upper trend line swing high. And we have and I do this all the time over the years. This is it. It's the higher low Fibonacci. This is what that kind of fail-safe support looks like. Maybe Bitcoin does fall into the 50s. So we have a 618 around 59, this 786 around 56. That's an interesting area because as we just discussed, if we go back to the weekly chart, check out what's there. If we zoom in, we have that blue line, the 50-week moving average, right around 58,000. So in the middle of this Fibonacci is the 50-week moving average. Maybe Bitcoin needs to retrace to that area on the macro. That's what I'm anticipating. But look where we are in this Bitcoin chart. And so I don't know how the week will start. I don't know how this weekend will go. We could fall lower very simply. But the explosive upside, I just want to mention, could happen at any time. Because if Bitcoin even starts moving just a little bit, look at this. Even from this previous week or so of consolidation, Bitcoin to break this previous swing high is only a 3-4% move away. And then all of a sudden, if it cruises to the upside towards 70, if we're breaking 70,000 on the short term, look what's happening. We're breaking this previous swing high on Bitcoin. And then we're starting to approach really this previous swing high all the way back here and ultimately all-time highs. So Bitcoin is a move away from just this incredibly bullish macro kind of trigger. And it really is. This breakout away from this entire upper trend line is the trigger for Bitcoin to make its move to ultimately this massive multi-year inverse head and shoulders neckline. So if I zoom out on the daily, that's what it's looking like. And in an environment like that, this will be the setup, in my opinion, for altcoin markets, as you see here, this total crypto market cap of altcoins to start making its move to the upside as well. So these are my thoughts Saturday. Not too much happening. I know crypto's falling, been falling, a lot of uncertainty in these markets right now, but I think it's going to turn around soon. These are just my opinions. This is just the way that I'm looking at these markets. As always, everybody, always anticipate every scenario. And that includes downside. It could all just fall. It could all just crash. Always have to visualize that and just keep it in mind. So let me know your thoughts today, everybody. I appreciate you watching. Hit the subscribe, hit the like. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.